jeez. I'm running late, I'm running late, I'm running late. And now I got a call. Oh, I got to take this. Hello? Yeah, hey, I didn't expect to hear from you. How are you doing, Tom? Fantastic. How's Rita? Perfect. All right. What, you guys have any special plans for Valentine's Day weekend? No, no, no. I know you like your privacy. I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah. Oh, you've been watching some of the premieres. Fantastic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're trying to help out the folks down in South Bend, Indiana. As a matter of fact, tomorrow marks the end of the fundraising campaign and contest that we've been doing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. You really have been following it then. So you're all aware of that, and you wanted to get involved, but you're out of the country right now. Okay. No, no, no. I would definitely be willing to do that. What is how's it going as far as the fundraising? Really well. Yeah, we're over 5,000 now. What is the biggest donation we've gotten? The biggest one so far is from, I'm trying to think here. Give me a second. The biggest one is from Mary out of Washington State. Yeah, yeah. No, how much did she give? Yeah, I normally don't go into that, but you're wanting to match it? She gave a gift of $1,500, $1,500. Yeah, crazy, I know. The funny thing is, you know how you've been following a little bit, you know how I'm doing the brick thing? 160-year-old brick from the original Singer cabinet factory that was in South Bend, Indiana. It still is there, but it's not operating anymore. It ended in 1955. But she sends a note when she makes the donation, calls the History Museum, says, I don't want a brick, I want a brick of cheese from Wisconsin. So, yeah. So I said, yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to send Mary in Washington State a brick of cheese instead of a 160-year-old brick. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, you know, I think that's exactly right. Everyone should do their part. Everyone should do their part. And it's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. But I think it's phenomenal that you're wanting to match that. And I would be happy to bridge that gap since you're out of the net right now and you can't readily call up and give your credit card number, obviously. I'd be happy to do that for you, and then you can just either read it or you can drop me a check. I couldn't agree more, my friend. Thank you for your willingness to say that. Truly, truly. Doing our own part, we are in this together. We are all in this together, and it's whether you're a big celebrity like you or someone else that's willing to step forward out of the shadows and make a difference for history. So you now, and when we had communicated just briefly about me trying to get you involved with this, in faith, I had made up a piece of paper with your name on it, hoping that you would be able to find time. I mean, putting your life on pause, that's like 2 steps beyond crazy. For Rita and you guys are all over the place. You guys have had your own challenges with COVID and everything, and I know that Rita as well, and many people don't know this, but your wife also suffered with breast cancer as well. So I know that you guys have had your own demons to battle, your own challenges, and for you to take time to do this and to make a difference for these folks in South Bend, Indiana, is huge. I know you haven't been in the Indiana area for, I think you said, for about 2 years, right? You've done a lot of work with veterans, obviously, and you were down there in the Indianapolis area, I think it was, about 2 years ago, promoting some of your good work for veterans. So, at any rate, Tom, I know how busy you are. And what a difference and what a jolt this is going to be for folks to know that you've stepped forward like this. It really is huge. And I won't ask anything of you again unless you reach out to me and say, I want another machine. But I know you're really devoted to your typewriters. So at any rate, my friend, thank you so much. God bless you guys, and you guys stay safe, okay? All right. Thanks again, Tom. Thanks again. I'm really grateful. And I know the folks are in Indiana as well. Take care. Yep, bye. Holy cow. Holy cow! What? What? Let me get some lights on here. Wow. That's blowing me away. That is blowing me away. Oh, wait. Reverse. Come on. Yes. That's right. This is another champion update, another hero for history update. And I thought these boards were all set and we're ready and we're done. But I've got to add one more name to the board that I had prepared hoping, but I didn't want to say anything about it because I know that miracles happen every day. They certainly do in this workshop, but I know folks are busy, especially this guy is crazy busy, and yet he put his life on pause. Now, if he can do it, what about all of you that are still sitting in the shadows? What about you? Come on now. All right. Now I can get some lights on so I can finish cutting out, because I hadn't even cut out this paper yet completely. I printed it. Let me show you. I printed it, but I had not cut it out completely yet, nor do I have tape on the back of it to put it up on the board, but I'm going to do that right now. Oh my goodness, my hands are shaking as I'm cutting this out. My hands are literally shaking. And like I just said on the phone with Tom, it is not about equal giving. It's about equal sacrifice. So because he and Mary out in Washington State decided they wanted to give a certain amount, or for that matter, any of the other generous donors that have stepped out of the shadows to support this cause, they all have had to sacrifice to do that. Even making a $100 donation is a sacrifice for many. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But when you believe in a cause, you're willing to sacrifice. You're willing to make a difference for the History Museum down in South Bend, Indiana. You're willing to reach into your own pocket, just as they have in preparing a lot of those artifacts that I had the privilege to examine down there during my visit leading up to Christmas last year. They're willing to sacrifice and buy those artifacts to enhance their vintage sewing machine collection. And it's not all Singer stuff. It's not all about Singer. They had a lot of other cool machines as well. And you have to check out that premiere. You're going to have to check that premiere out in order to appreciate just how amazing of a collection of artifacts they have. And they didn't even have all of them pulled out. They gave me a long list. Christy Dunn had pulled together a long list, but that's not their entire collection. They have a lot in storage. A lot in storage. It's just crazy how much of a collection they've accrued. Some of it was donated, but a lot of the items that I looked at in those premieres that are part of that playlist on this YouTube channel, those are things that they bought. They went to an auction, they went to some other venue where these items were being presented or were available for purchase, and they said, we're going to buy them. Yeah, they're an investment. Yeah, it's going to cut into our bottom line, but we're not just talkers, we're walkers when it comes to loving vintage sewing machine related artifacts. And so they did that. And I mean, again, if you haven't checked out those videos yet of my entire journey, my entire adventure in South Bend, Indiana, you're going to want to do that, because it started with Christy Dunn and Kat and others in examining those artifacts. It went over to the incredible Oliver Mansion Kopscha home, which again is a small village in Scotland that J.D. Oliver came from. And then it culminated with me being able to shoot some great video outside of the original Singer plant that opened in the 1860s and closed in 1955. And then finally, the last day, the morning that I'm getting ready to leave and head back to Wisconsin, I have just an absolute amazing opportunity that a door opens for me to be able to go inside and actually walk those halls where those cabinet makers were racing around like bees in a beehive, generating on average 10,000 cabinets a day, 2 million a year. Absolutely mind-blowing that they were able to generate those many cabinets. And I've talked about this before. I've tried to articulate what kind of cabinets these are. And I probably have fallen short every time in saying they're handcrafted, they're ornate, they're gorgeous, they're drop dead gorgeous, all that kind of stuff. But I'm actually going to pull one up on the screen here finally, almost at the end of this fundraiser, so you can appreciate what I've been trying to, and probably failing at, in trying to describe to you as far as these cabinets. Okay, now look at this thing. Look at this. Look at the detailing on it. And imagine in your mind a force of 3,000 plus individuals that were racing around that Singer cabinet factory and the other plants as well, because there were several plants on about a 50 to 60 acre Singer campus, where there were all kinds of activities going on. They would basically cut down their own timber, they would plane it, they would stain it, they would prepare the wood, and then eventually it would end up going into the hands of master wood craftsmen that would make cabinets like this. 10,000 a day? Are you serious? 10,000 a day? Cabinets that were comparable to this? 2 million a year? It's absolutely mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing to have an operation that is running at that level, that they're able to generate something like this times 10,000 a day. And many of those cabinets leaving the factory in South Bend, Indiana, did in fact have machines in them, because a lot of these cabinets, yes, a lot of them were going worldwide. At one point, that cabinet making factory in South Bend, Indiana, they estimate was providing probably about 70 to 80% of these sewing cabinets for the entire world. 3/4 of the cabinets that were being used worldwide at one point or another during the time that that cabinet factory was operating from the 1860s until around 1955, they were supplying cabinets to about 3/4 of the world. That's why they had to generate so many, 10,000 a day, 2 million a year, to keep up with the demand. Because, yeah, there were other folks making cabinets, but not like this. Again, the South Bend, Indiana area is known for black walnut and other incredible hardwoods. And they were making works of art like this, not basic cabinets like you would find at a thrift shop or something like that. Stuff like this. And so they had to, I mean, that operation, walking the halls was one thing, as I did with my friend Anthony when he gave me access to that Singer cabinet factory on the last day of my visit down there in South Bend, Indiana. But can you imagine having been in those halls when all of that machinery was running and those workers were basically sprinting from one end of the factory or from one building to another to get that done so they could meet that demand? I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. I mean, I would have been, I would have been just drooling. I would have just been in awe. All of us would have been, for an operation running like that. It just crazy, 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 crazy. And that's why it's so important to preserve and protect the history of South Bend, Indiana, because it wasn't just about South Bend, Indiana. That's why all of these champions from around the country have stepped forward, including Tom Hanks, and said, yeah, history is worth protecting. History is worth safeguarding. Because that plant in South Bend, Indiana was not just about Hoosiers. It wasn't just about Indiana folks. It impacted the entire world when it was operating from the 1860s through 1955. The entire world was touched by the master craftsmanship and the incredible operating marvel of that 50 to 60 acre campus that was in the heart of South Bend, Indiana. That's why all of us want to be a part of it. That's why all of us want to be a part of preserving and protecting history with the History Museum down in South Bend, Indiana. That's why we want to be on Brian's team. That's why we want to be on Christy Dunn's team. That's why we want to be on Kat's team, on Skylar's team. The list goes on of all of those champions down there in South Bend, Indiana at that History Museum. All of those heroes for history that said, yeah, we're going to put some skin in the game and buy artifacts to make our vintage sewing machine collection more robust. So when Scott comes down, he's going to be like, whoa. When other folks make the trip to the History Museum to examine those artifacts, they're going to be like, no way. Because again, these folks are not just talkers. Talk is cheap. These folks are walkers. Yes, they are. So this is what that cabinet factory was making. Does that, I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I probably have used 1,000 words to try to describe these through this entire fundraising contest campaign. This gives you finally a realization of what the marvel of this Singer sewing machine cabinet factory, what they were making. Doesn't it? I mean, this really does it. This really, 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 really does it. All right. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Let me see if I can show you another picture, and then we're going to jump over to our new champions. All right. Through this entire campaign, I've tried to inspire folks to step out of the shadows and be counted for history, right? The entire campaign, I've been stepping up and stepping out and saying, come on, don't just be talkers, be walkers. Well, some of you folks in these final days of this campaign have said, okay, enough is enough. I am not a talker. I'm a very busy person. I'm running all over the place doing things. But I'm going to put my life on pause because Scott has called my state out enough times. That's it. I'm going to step out of the shadows. Well, as all of you know, that happened a little while ago with my friends Louie and Sandra from California. Louie and Sandra in California, after me calling out California a couple of times, they said, okay, enough is enough. Scott did an amazing restoration on our General Electric Model A from the 1920s. Well, actually 1930s, correction. The Sew Handy started in the 1920s. What a lot of people argue are the original featherweights. And Louie and Sandra's would have come on board right around in the 1930s time frame. But still, they had searched. If you're new to this channel, let me just say this again. Oh, I should also ring the bell, shouldn't I? Hold on. Okay. So, rewind. Put it on pause. So, they had searched like 10 years out in California, off and on, looking for someone that was willing to restore that Model A. As most of you know that follow me faithfully, they couldn't find anyone in California. Californians are always gung-ho and hard drivers, and they're like, you know, most Californians are always like, yeah, we can make it happen. We'll get it done. Well, they searched high and low. They couldn't find anyone in California. They finally came across this YouTube channel, and they started watching me, and they started learning more about the work, and they checked me out on Facebook, like Brad Stuman's Model 66 that I sent to him down in Tennessee. And they were like, this is the guy that we want, but will he be willing to take this project on? It looks like he's real busy, and I am. But when they reached out and they told me their story, they told me about the machine, I said, send it to the workshop. It's going to take a while, but I'll get her done for you. And I got her done. And again, you can find that premiere on this channel showcasing that incredible General Electric Model A that came on board and was being manufactured even before the Singer Featherweight 221 was introduced at the Chicago World's Fair back in 1934. And that's why these folks that are part of the So Handy family and part of the General Electric Model A family as well argue fairly convincingly that they are really the original featherweights. And that probably really ticks off some of the featherweight owners because they have a lot of pride. But facts are facts. And it's well documented when the So Handys came on board in the 1920s. And, again, Louis and Sandra's as well was produced even before the Chicago World's Fair in 1934. Theirs would have been right around 1931 if my memory serves me correct. So they got bragging rights. They can say we're the original featherweight. And it is what it is. So at any rate, Louis and Sandra, after getting their machine taken care of and seeing it premiered and everything, and me calling out California again and again and again, they finally stepped out of the shadows and they said, yep, we're going to donate. They called Shelby. It was easy. It was quick. Boom, done. But up until they stepped out of the shadows, I didn't have anyone from California. No one. California was silent. But guess what? I just got off the phone with someone else that is from California. Someone else, well, is also from Greece too, with their new citizenship. But I just got off the phone with Tom Hanks, the Tom Hanks, who said, been following your stuff, got your machine that you prepared for me, the 301, love it to death. I don't know if I'm going to shift over to vintage sewing machines yet because I'm pretty diehard about typewriters, but at the same time, I really have fallen in love with your passion of history, Scott, your passion for doing things right, doing it at a world-class level. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I also want to be a part of what you're doing for the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana. And he just made the promise of a donation that I'm going to help him with because he's out of the country and he can't readily call up Shelby and say, hey, here's my card number. And let's just face it, folks, when you're a celebrity at that level, you need privacy. So I'm going to be the surrogate stepping in there. I'll make that donation on his behalf, and then he and Rita will take care of me. And that's totally cool. So now I finally have my second Californian, Tom Hanks, that just made a donation to match the highest donation we have to date, which again, it's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. And Mary from Washington State, which I'm going to point at next, Washington State, where are you? Way up there. Washington State has been called out several times as well, and Washington State has been silent. Washington State has been silent, but not anymore, because Mary, that comes from that beautiful state, stepped out of the shadows and made a crazy donation of $1,500 to help out the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana, and had a very funny, unique request. I'm going to come into the shot on this because I just think it's so cool. Let me come out on the shot a little bit on this and see if I'll kind of do my kneel thing in front of the camera. So Mary from Washington, boy, I got to really go back here. Mary from Washington State, when she called Shelby and said, basically I want to donate, I want to support this cause, she had a very unique request. And you'll see that when we go over to our board of Heroes for History, our champions. She said, I don't want one of those 106-year-old bricks. They're really cool. But because Scott is from Wisconsin, I want to get a brick of Wisconsin cheese. And Shelby actually sent that. She sends me updates every day. She sent that update to me, and I had to laugh out loud. And then I saw that Mary had also written that on Facebook. So I answered back and I said, I'm going to work on that. And I will. I'll end up sending her a block or a brick of Wisconsin cheese instead of a brick from the Singer Cabinet Factory in South Bend, Indiana, which I think is just fabulous. So kudos to Mary for stepping out of the shadows to represent the great state of Washington. Where are my other Washingtonians? Where are my other folks from Washington? You know, where are my folks from Oregon right now? I still have nobody from the great state of Oregon. No one from Oregon. Kind of zoom back in here a little bit. So now we have two folks from California. The West Coast is represented very well by Tom and Rita, and also by my friends Louie and Sandra. I've got someone up in Washington State now. My new friend Mary from Washington State. Still have no one from Oregon. Where are my folks from Oregon? Seriously. And I'm going to point at all the other states again and call you guys out for a final time, because the campaign to help the History Museum is ending Monday, February 15th. That's in basically one day, because you're watching this live premiere. You're a part of this live premiere on Sunday, February 14th. So tomorrow, the campaign ends for the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana. And I still have no one from the beautiful, incredible state of Oregon. I have nobody from Idaho. I have nobody from Montana. No one from Wyoming. And I've done work for all of these states over the years. No one from Utah. No one from Arizona. It blows my mind. I've got a lot of friends that I've done work for out in Arizona. I was going to say I have no one in Colorado, but guess what? My friend from Colorado, Marion, with the last name, and I'm not making this up, you're going to see it on the board, with the last name of Singer, S-I-N-G-E-R, Marion Singer, from the beautiful state of Colorado, stepped out of the shadows and saying, we are not going to be called out anymore. I'm going to step out of the shadows into the light, and I'm going to encourage other folks from Colorado to do the same thing. But right now, Marion Singer, S-I-N-G-E-R, is totally on her own. So I can't point at Colorado anymore and say, no one stepped out of the shadows. Marion did. Marion Singer stepped out of the shadows, but she's alone. What about the rest of you folks in Colorado that love me and love my work? Where are you? Step alongside Marion Singer. I mean, who wouldn't want to step alongside someone that has the last name of Singer, for goodness sakes? Wow. So do it. We've got folks from New Mexico already. My good friend Doc Roger. And I'm going to show you something really special during this premiere that Doc Roger sent to me, which I, in all likelihood, am going to eventually donate to the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana. And you'll see why when I show you what it is. Okay? Like I was saying, I get all scattered, but no one from Arizona, no one from Utah, no one from Nevada, no one from Oregon, no one from Idaho, no one from Montana, no one from Wyoming, no one from North Dakota or South Dakota or Nebraska or Kansas or Oklahoma. It still blows me away with all the folks that supposedly love my work from what WK has told me. And I know WK is a man of his word. I know he's a man of honor, a man of integrity. He said, Scott, in my sewing group down here in Oklahoma, near Tulsa, the ladies in my sewing group, they love you to death. They follow you on YouTube. They don't miss a single video that you post, a single premiere that you present. But not one of those ladies, God bless them, not one of those ladies from Oklahoma has called Shelby. I don't get it. Especially with WK having a vintage sewing machine museum down there in Tulsa. So I'm calling out those ladies from WK's sewing group that he told me, and I know that he's speaking the truth. He said they love you to death, Scott. They can't wait until you come down to my museum and we can treat you like a rock star and we can restore that featherweight together and all of that stuff. And I don't doubt that these are genuine ladies down here, that they're walkers. I mean, they're from Oklahoma, for goodness sakes. Folks in Oklahoma are not talkers, they're walkers. But maybe these ladies are just busy. So I'm calling these ladies out from WK's Sewing Group and asking you to put your life on pause in this final day of this fundraiser to benefit the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana. I'm asking you ladies down there, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that are friends and our buddies with WK, that has his incredible vintage sewing machine museum in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm asking you to put your lives on pause and to step out of the shadows for the great state of Oklahoma. I don't need to point at Texas. Texas is all over the place in stepping out of the shadows. But what about Minnesota? What about Iowa? What about Missouri? What about Arkansas? What about Mississippi? What about Alabama? What about Tennessee? What about Kentucky? What about Illinois and Indiana? This History Museum is based right in South Bend, Indiana. I haven't had a single person during the course of this fundraising contest campaign that started on February 1st. I haven't had a single person step forward from the great states of Indiana or Illinois. That is absolutely shocking to me. That's absolutely shocking. Same thing with Ohio. I've got a number of friends that I've done restorations or repairs or work for over the years out in Ohio. Not a single one of them has stepped out of the shadows. That just blows me away. Why? What's going on with that? What about West Virginia? I've got Sunny out in Pennsylvania, and I also now have her fiance as well, Craig, that have stepped forward for Pennsylvania, but that's it. What about all you other folks in Pennsylvania? No one from New York has stepped forward. Not a single person, with all the talk about we're New Yorkers, we're proud, we're can-do, we're going to get it done type people. We're going to do it Brooklyn style. Not a single person from New York has called to support the History Museum. I think that's shameful. I really do. And I'm hoping that you folks will turn it around in the last day of this fundraiser as we close things out on February 15th at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm hoping that you folks out in New York will take the challenge. Also, you folks in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey. What about my New Jersey people? What about my bubbles? What about my New Jersey people? What about my folks in Delaware and Maryland? Where are those folks? None of those folks have stepped out of the shadows. No one in Virginia either. No one in North Carolina or South Carolina. I've given you folks every reason to step forward. And don't even tell me that you're too busy. Don't even go down that road. If someone like a world-class celebrity like Tom Hanks can put his life on pause and can step out of the shadows and saying, count me in, don't even try to tell me that you're busier than he is, because there is no way I'm going to buy that one. There's no way. So consider yourselves called out again. And like I said in one of the recent premieres, you know, I think it's shameful. I think it's absolutely shameful if this campaign closes at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on February 15th. And if you're in one of these states that I've called out, that you stay silent. I think it's absolutely shameful. I think it's shameful. I really do. So let me just go on faith that, like a lot of other folks that have stepped into the light at the last minute, like Mary from Washington State, like Marion Singer, again, that blows me away, Singer, from Colorado. Colorado was not represented. It is now because of Marion. The great state of Washington was not represented. It is now, in a huge way, from Mary because of her generosity. We've got only the 15th. That's it. So I'm going to keep the faith. I'm going to trust that you're going to do the right thing. Just like all these other champions have done. Just like all these other heroes of history have done. They could have said, we're too busy. Or, you know what? Hey, it's a pandemic. Did you get the news flash? Hey, there's a lot of joblessness out there. As I said to Brian recently as we were chatting, he and I were just rejoicing, literally rejoicing in the generosity of all of these champions that we're going to look at in just a few seconds. We were literally rejoicing like it's blowing us away. Shelby was like doing a dance. She was doing a dance down there in South Bend, Indiana, because she was just overjoyed by the response of people that love what I do and were willing to step forward and say, yeah, I'm not just a talker, I'm a walker. And I am a follower of Scott's. I am a fan of Scott's. And if he says this is important, then it's important to me. And all of these people have put their lives on pause to prove that. Talk is cheap. I've said that before. Talk is cheap. But when you put skin in the game, just like the folks down at the museum have done, and they've dug into their own pockets and they bought all of these amazing artifacts that I had the privilege of examining during my visit down there. And again, that video is on this channel under that playlist, basically capstoning my visit down to South Bend, Indiana. These are not talkers down there, they're walkers. And I respect people like that. Folks that talk about doing something, but they never put the rubber to the road. I'll just be honest. I don't have respect for those folks, especially if they've said leading up to this campaign that they're going to do something and then they don't. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I'm just talking straight. So if you don't like straight talk, you're probably on the wrong channel. I'm just being honest with you. So, but at any rate, blah, 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 blah. If I named your state as someone that still is not represented, I hope that you make it right in these final hours of this fundraiser and contest. And again, if you're brand new to this, let me get you up to speed. After my visit down there, because of the incredible hospitality, the warmth, the generous time that all of these stakeholders that are part of the History Museum team gave to me, they just treated me like royalty. They truly did. I just felt inspired to want to give back, and so I resolved at that time. We were at that time we were still not at the 10,000 subscriber mark on this channel. But I said, when we hit that mark, here's what we're going to do this time. We've done other type contests before involving Bill, involving Hans, other things like that. But this time, we're going to focus on giving to a great organization. And I think I talked about it down near the causeway here in Oconto. And I had my, basically the floorboard on the passenger side covered with the bricks that I was able to scoop up from the factory down there that Anthony allowed me to scoop up. These incredible treasures of history, 160-year-old bricks that were used to build that original cabinet factory down there in South Bend, Indiana. And I said, here's what we're going to do. When we hit 10,000, we're going to do a contest/fundraiser. And the way the contest is going to look is behind door number 1 in honor of J.D. Oliver, the incredible magnate that developed the chill plow, and that the Oliver Mansion is named after as well. That's part of the History Museum now. And we're gonna give away a Scottish machine. I don't know what it is at this point, but it's possible, because the featherweight 222Ks, the featherweight of featherweights that were made only in Scotland at that incredible Singer plant, it's possible, it's not for sure, it's possible I might give one of those away, because I have one of those in my personal collection. So I'm just going to tell you that it's going to be a fully restored Scottish machine. It could be a 222K, not for sure. So you're rolling the dice on window number 1 or door number 1. But let me tell you what's behind door number 2. And this is being inspired by my visit and my tour of Copshahome, which again is a Scottish village where J.D. Oliver came from. And after I toured that incredible mansion with Skylar, and we got up to the servants' quarters, and I looked into that sewing machine room up there in the mansion. And initially I named the wrong machine. You'll see that. But then I shined my flashlight on it, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what it is now. because the room was kind of dark. It was just dark. And I shone my flashlight on it, and I explained to Skylar standing right up there in the mansion. I said, let me tell you about this machine. This machine was used back in the late 1940s, from about 1948 until 1952, by none other than Rolls-Royce to sew the interior leather panels of their luxury cars. And over 10 years ago, I was the first one in the world to call the Singer 201-2 the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines. And now everyone around the world is using those same words to describe that machine. I said, that is the significance of the machine that the Olivers picked to have in their mansion, Skylar. That's the significance of this machine. And Brian later reached out and he goes, man, oh man, we had no idea. We had no idea the significance of that sewing machine that you had the chance to see. That's not open to the general public. And all of you that watched that incredible tour, again, given by Skylar, who's not just a worker there, she's the curator of that incredible mansion. And she took time out of her very busy schedule. She put her life on pause for me to walk me through that incredible mansion. We didn't rush. I mean, she showed me every appointment of that, from the Tiffany glass to the incredible wall work that are in the dining room area of that home. Walked me past all the fireplaces in that home. We joked around up in the ballroom on the top floor of there about the kids' tours that come through, and they do goofy things just like Scott. And so it was a privilege to explain to them, this is the significance of the Oliver family, millionaires picking this machine to be in their mansion, the 201-2. And so at any rate, blah, 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 behind door number 2, for the person that ultimately gets their name pulled out of the hat or out of the bucket, if they don't want to roll the dice and go with, okay, it's going to be a fully restored Scottish machine behind door number 1, but it may not be a 222K. So I'm going to go with a sure thing behind door number 2. I know Scott said it's going to be a fully restored 201-2, the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines, the same machine that the Olivers have in their mansion down there in South Bend, Indiana. The same one that sewed the interior leather panels on Rolls-Royce automobiles from around 1948 to 1952. That's saying something. And so I really wanted to build the giveaway for the contest portion of this around the incredible Oliver family and their legacy. And that's really where the History Museum is focusing during the month of February as well, is on the Oliver legacy. And so it went hand in hand, and I wanted to be in unison with my friends down there. So that's why I built the contest the way I did. Behind door number 1 is a Scottish machine to honor J.D. Oliver, coming from Scotland, that small village again called Copshahome. And behind door number 2 is going to be the same machine that is in the sewing room off of the servants' quarters in the Oliver Mansion down in South Bend, Indiana. The 201-2, the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines. Can you see the thoughtfulness that I tried to build into the contest? It wasn't a haphazard decision. It was a very, very pinpoint decision because I wanted to be in unison with my friends down there at the museum. So there you go. There's the contest portion. That's only a piece of the pie. The other bigger piece of the pie is the fact that also along with that contest is a fundraiser. Started on February the 1st. It ends on February the 15th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's tomorrow, folks. Tomorrow that contest ends. Shelby, I know she is going to be as close as she can be to that phone all day long, hoping and praying, just like Brian, just like Christy, just like Kat, just like Skylar and all the other incredible folks that are part of that incredible team down there. They're all going to be hoping and praying that all of you, especially you that are coming out of those states that are not represented yet, that I know there are probably hundreds, if not thousands of people in those states that follow my work and at one time or another have either benefited from it or have said, we love Scott, we love his work, we love what he represents for vintage. And if he believes in a cause, we believe in it. All right, cool. Thank you. I'm honored by that. Put your money where your mouth is and step out of the shadows in these final hours of this campaign to benefit the History Museum, just as my friend Mary did from Washington State. That only very recently happened. This campaign has been going for a while, and Mary was probably watching a lot of those champion updates, and she didn't do it so she was announced as a champion. I don't sense that that's the way she is at all. But she finally stepped out of the shadows and said, count me in. Count me in. Just like Marion Singer. Again, it blows me away. Singer. Marion Singer out of the great state of Colorado. Sat back there for a long time before she stepped forward out of the shadows and said, count me in. And I'm sure there are lots of folks in Oregon and all the other states that I mentioned that you've been watching this entire campaign. You've been watching these premieres live. Probably because when I look at the number of live watchers, it's always much greater than the folks that step out and make remarks in the live chat. So if you're one of those folks sitting in the shadows, step out. Let me get you up on this board, because after the campaign ends at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on February 15th, I'm going to do a final champion update and name all of the people from the 1st of February through the 15th of February that said, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to put skin in the game. I'm not going to be a talker. I'm going to be a walker. Just like that crazy dude from Wisconsin has been challenging us the entire time to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. I am now a walker. Gosh, I hope that happens. I hope you become one of those walkers. Whichever state you're watching this premiere in right now, I hope you step out of the shadows and say, count me in. And again, please, please don't step forward after the campaign and say, Scott, I would love to have been a part of that. Scott, I'm going to be a part of the next one, guaranteed. I'm too busy. I was just too busy to pause my life to step forward. Please don't even do that. Because again, all of these champions that are up on this board, including Tom Hanks, I think if you put the lives on the scales of who's busier, I'm guessing a number of these champions are much busier than you are. And yet they said, I'm going to pause my life. Count me in. Count me in. All right. Finally, after all that blah, 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 let me put on some more music and let me show you who our newest champions are. And it has nothing to do with bubbles, by the way. Nothing to do with bubbles. All right. Let's see who these champions are. Let me minimize this because we might look at that one more time. Look at it again. Look, just, wow. Look at that. That's what these folks were making 10,000 of a day. 10,000 it still blows me away. It still blows me away. It really does. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? All right, I'm looking for my cursor. Where is my cursor? I got to turn the volume down so you guys can actually hear me as well. All right, let's put this one on again. This is kind of a fun one. All right. Let's go over and look at our newest champions and also revisit. Let's also revisit our other champions that we've already pointed to. Hold on just a second. Turn this down a little bit more. All right, let's go over here first. Okay? I want to revisit my original champions that in the first days of the campaign stepped out and said, count me in. There was no pause. There was no deliberation. There was no contemplation. There was no pontification. They just said, you believe in it, Scott? We believe in it. Count me in. My dear friend, Sunny, from the great state of Pennsylvania, again, other than her fiance, who just did a really cool thing, and you'll see that in a second. Sunny's alone. Think about how big the state of Pennsylvania is. Think about how many hundreds of people probably follow my work there. And yet she stands alone with her fiance, Craig. That's it. Come on, Pennsylvania people, you can do better than that. Let's look at my dear friend, Paula Noel from Florida. Florida has been, they've been a game changer for this entire campaign. between Paula Noel, Emma B., Pamela Ann, I call her Pam. These ladies have just made it happen, and yet, however, we're in the final hours of our campaign, not a single guy, and I know I have, if I look at the stats for my channel, for this YouTube channel, I've got more men that follow my work than women, straight up. And yet I haven't had a single guy from the state of Florida. Wait a second, no, I'm wrong. Wait a second. I am totally wrong. Did I get him up on the board? Or did I forget to put him up on the board? Oh, I am ashamed now. I am ashamed. I am ashamed. I forgot to put John Smith up on the board. John Smith, I apologize. John Smith is from the great state of Florida. And John Smith, when I reached out to him to let him know, because he's a busy guy, he's my friend that I interviewed that worked for NASA, that worked with sewing machines in the Navy. I can't believe that I messed that up. How did I miss that? So I stand corrected. I do have a man, not only a man, I have a man's man from Florida, John Smith, that did step forward alongside Paula Noel and Emma B. and Pamela Ann. Thank you, John Smith, and I will correct that. Right after this premiere, I will work on getting your name up on this board, so when I do my final capstone, you will be up on this board, because you are not up on this board right now, and that is wrong. That's my fault. That is totally my fault. So again, John Smith from the great state of Florida is representing the men of Florida, but he's alone, standing next to Paula Noel and Emma B. and Pamela Ann. So what about you other guys down in Florida that love vintage sewing machines and are still sitting in the shadows? You should follow John Smith's lead as a Navy man. Maybe you were in the Navy. Maybe you worked for NASA. Step out there and mention that to Shelby, and Shelby will say to me in the notes that this donor worked at NASA, maybe even knew John Smith, worked in the Navy, was a Navy man or a Navy gal, and they stepped into the light because they wanted to represent the Navy just like John Smith. I still can't believe I missed John Smith on this board. Boy, oh boy, that is a sorry about that, John. I'll make it right. So I already mentioned all my Florida folks, and my Texas folks also have been champions through this entire campaign. My dear friends Emily and Veronica, again, mother and daughter from Texas, that stepped forward in the very earlier parts of this campaign to represent Texas. And I'm also preparing a machine for Emily as well. And I'm so excited about being able to do that for Emily. Quick shout out to Emily. Emily, you rock. Matter of fact, Emily, guess what? You are so important, along with your mom, that I'm going to ring a bell just for you, Emily. This special bell, too. So thank you again, ladies from Texas. And I've got a lot of other great Texans as well, like my dear friend Annette Stover as well, that stepped out of the shadows. I'm trying to think if I have anybody else from Texas. I'll have to double check. Make sure I didn't miss anyone else either. Boy, oh boy, John, how did I do that, man? How did I do that? But at any rate, we can't dwell on the past. We got to look towards the future. Like my dear friend from West Point as well, Brian, who also stepped forward to be counted for Louisiana, but he's on his own right now, just like I am. I'm still the only person from Wisconsin that has donated to support the History Museum. That is shameful. It truly is. Also, my dear friend Doc Roger, who also I'm going to show you, sent me something super cool. Doc Roger from New Mexico is the only person from New Mexico that stepped out and said, count me in. Early in the campaign. Gloria is still on her own as a Georgia girl. Also, we love to call Gloria Gigi, just like her grandchildren do. Gigi is the only one from Georgia that stepped out into the light from the shadows and said, count me in, Scott. You believe in this, I believe in this. Where are all my other folks from Georgia and all the other southern states that I've done a lot of work for? Where are you guys? Seriously. Now, Louie and Sandra finally don't have to stand alone anymore. They don't have to stand alone as Californians. Because as you're going to see on the other board, and as this premiere opened, and I was getting ready to jump into things, I get a call from Tom Hanks, who's from California too, by way of Greece. But at any rate, Louie and Sandra can now say, we're not alone anymore. We got another Californian, a pretty well-known Californian, that has stepped out of the shadows into the light. And I've already mentioned all my incredible Florida ladies, along with John Smith now as well, you know, Pamela Ann, and Emma B., and also Paula Noel. And again, I can't send these bricks out to you folks until you vote and express your opinion on Paula Noel's incredible tags that are going to go with those bricks that are heading out real soon. Matter of fact, when this campaign closes on the 15th of February at 5 p.m., if you haven't put your vote in on which tag you like best, that's on Facebook, posted it there. It's been posted there. I think Sonny jumped in. I think Roz may have jumped in. I know Emma B jumped in, but all you other folks have been sitting back, twiddling your thumbs, saying, yeah, they're awesome, they're great, but you haven't voted. Vote! So that Paula Noel and I and everybody else know what tag we're going to go with. Come on, folks. Come on. Put your tags in. Put your tags in. Put your tags in. Come on, make it happen. Make it happen. So these are all some of my original champions right here. Right there on that board. And again, my Texas folks, for such a big state, we've got Annette Stover, we've got Emma and Veronica, and we just added one of my dearest, nearest friends that I had a chance to do a restoration for. We'll leave this board alone for right now and go over to this other board. I had a chance to do an incredible restoration for Juliet Thomas from the great state of Texas, along with Emily and Veronica and Annette Stover. And Juliet has been a faithful follower of mine forever, and also had reached out well over a year ago. And she said, I've got a challenge. I don't even know if you can do this, Scott. And I said, bring it. What do you got going on? Well, what Juliet explained is that she had been raised in a sewing family. Her mom, side by side as a little girl, she would watch her mom sewing on her Type 8E Husqvarna straight stitch only sewing machine. And tragically, that machine ended up getting destroyed in a house fire, and it was lost. And Juliet and her mom grieved the loss of that machine. They grieved it. But she just kept hope. She kept the faith. Just like all the people that I've talked about recently on Facebook that have had their challenges. You know, life is not without challenges. It doesn't matter if you're a famous celebrity or if you're just a common person like me in Wisconsin. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have obstacles that get in your path. And, but Juliet kept the faith and eventually found me and reached out hesitantly, questioningly. Can you do this? Can you somehow, if I send you a Type 8E that is not whole, could you find another Type 8E and get us a complete machine again so that that gap in our lives, that tragedy, that fire that burned up all those memories of our time sewing together as mom and daughter, can you do that? Is that even too big for Scott? I said, send me the machine and I will put everything I can into this. Well, the end of that story is, guess what? It happened. And Juliet and her mom now have a whole Type 8E again, and that memory of that fire is erased. That tragedy, that devastation is gone. That heartache is filled with joy as they can sit down as mother and daughter again to that same machine that came from the ashes like the phoenix, from a little workshop in Oconto, Wisconsin. Miracles happen every day. Never lose the faith. Never lose the faith. So I'm delighted to say Juliet now has joined the other Texans that are already represented. But how many more Texans could step forward? That's a real big state. And right now we only have Juliet, Thomas, Emily and Veronica, and Annette Stover representing the entire state of Texas. Come on, folks. Really? Why? I told you before, a little bit ago, when was talking and mentioning this incredible lady that stepped forward in a huge way. I called out the state of Washington State several times and said, where are my folks from Washington State? Well, you know what? That challenge was finally answered by Mary. And I am terrible at pronouncing names. So I'm just going to say Mary, and you can see Mary's last name right there, who now is one of my newest heroes for history, and donated, again, it's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. Mary decided sacrificially she wanted to give a gift of $1,500. Anyone want to do the math and post in the chat how many entries that gives her into my contest? $1,500 donation. That absolutely blew me away when Shelby and Brian told me about it, because I had called that state out numerous times, as all of you know, and that state was silent. And then all of a sudden Mary stepped forward and said, count me in. And not only count me in, but count me in a significant way. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And she's the one that said to Shelby, you can read it right here, she wants a brick of Wisconsin cheese instead of a Singer brick. Well, let me say this to Mary. You're going to get your brick of cheese. I promise you that. I'm going to send that out, and I could not be any more grateful. And I know on behalf of Brian and Shelby and the rest of the folks down at the History Museum, that gift is mind-blowing. And it doesn't lessen all the other gifts at all that were given by all the other generous donors. That's just what you said. You know what? It's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. This is my sacrificial gift to support those folks down in South Bend, Indiana. This is my sacrificial gift to say I'm not a talker, I'm a walker. This is my sacrificial gift to say, count me in, because this is something Scott believes in, this is something I believe in. And I'm going to say that in a major way. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. It's absolutely mind-blowing. But you know what? There's other folks that were sitting in the shadows as well. And they had busy lives. And they had to set an alarm to remind themselves about giving, because days get busy. Life is busy. Days blend into weeks. Weeks blend into months. And we don't have months. We had days. Now we're down to hours. The campaign ends tomorrow. And this beautiful lady right here, Carol Jean, known by us, by most of us that are frequenters to premieres, as Butterfly. Butterfly on my walls. Carol Jean, or Butterfly as we call her, stepped forward in a major way as well and gave a very generous gift, well beyond the basic gift, to say, I'm not a talker, Scott, I'm a walker. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carol Jean. Thank you, Butterfly, for not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. In a major way. In a major way. And let me go all the way over here. I mentioned her already, but let me go over here. To Marion Singer. I spelled it a couple times just because I thought you guys wouldn't believe me. But Marion Singer from Colorado was sitting back in the shadows for a long time and finally said, I am not a talker, I'm a walker. Count me in. And she stepped forward with a generous gift like all of these other donors and said, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a hero for history. I want to be a champion for history. And she made it happen. She made it happen. Yes, she did. And just moments ago, as you witnessed during this premiere, I added another hero to this board that I had already done a sign, hoping and praying, really stepping forward in faith that this very, very busy individual would step forward, and he did. And he doesn't like a lot of hoopla. He's a very private guy. He's a very low-key guy. One of the nicest, I think the nicest person in Hollywood, and most people think of him that way. But he and Rita, I mean, in their lives, you want to talk about busy and try to use that as an excuse? Let's put your busyness on a scale next to this gentleman right here, who I just know as Tom, but his real official name is Thomas Jeffrey Hanks. Just a regular guy that loves to step behind great causes, loves our veterans. As a matter of fact, you might remember that premiere from many months ago when I had a chance to introduce to you my friends, the Sanborns, who live out on the East Coast. Mike and Jill Sanborn. Mike used to be with the FBI, and Jill is currently the Deputy Director of Counterterrorism for the FBI. Talk about an important mission of keeping us all safe. And it was in talking with Mike over the phone, as I was meeting a need of his that he had for his Husqvarna, that we got on the topic of Tom Hanks and the machine that I had prepared for him a number of months before. And Mike had shared with me some incredible pictures never seen by the public that eventually I will try to get over to Tom. And I will also share with you of Tom at a Medal of Honor ceremony because he just loves our veterans so much. He's not a talker, he's a walker. And you might remember the funny story, and I'll just share this real quick as we're looking at Tom. Mike, then working for the FBI, is put on a detail where he and a number of FBI agents out in Washington, D.C. are near, basically they're near Arlington Cemetery, and there's going to be a major event there where then President Bill Clinton is going to speak and honor these Medal of Honor recipients. But they've got to move these Medal of Honor recipients, many of whom are wheelchair bound, from one point to another, to another, to another. Finally, the culmination is they've got to get them over near Arlington Cemetery, where a stage is set up, and Bill Clinton, the president, is going to be speaking. And Mike, as a driven guy, former Marine, special forces type dude, I mean, a man's man, he just says it the way it is sometimes, kind of like me. And he sees some guy standing over there not doing much of anything, and they're racing to try to get all these Medal of Honor recipients that are wheelchair bound over to this stage area near Arlington Cemetery where President Bill Clinton is going to be honoring them. And he sees this dude standing over there doing nothing, and he's like, hey, you, grab that Medal of Honor recipient, help me out. Let's head over to Arlington and get these honored Medal of Honor recipients set up so they can receive the recognition that they're due from President Bill Clinton. And this guy, basically says something like, sure, no problem. He grabs the other Medal of Honor recipient in the wheelchair, is in tandem, racing over to the stage area with Mike Sanborn, this FBI agent that I presented to you guys a number of months ago. Mike finally gets over to the stage area, kind of looks up to this guy, and makes eye contact with him for the first time, kind of, composing himself, and he's going to, offer a quick, hey, thanks. That person that jumped in without saying, do you know who I am, was none other than Tom Hanks, who had been invited there probably by the president or someone up at the highest point in the government to be also a fellow celebrity and honored guest of that event to honor Medal of Honor recipients. And Mike Sanborn now retired from the FBI. His wife, again, is Deputy Director of Counterterrorism of the FBI right now. So I've got, if I were running any trouble, I need some FBI folks on my side. Thank goodness I've got the Sanborns in my corner. But these are folks that you couldn't be any busier. And yet all of these folks that I just named put their life on pause and said, yeah, count me in. Count me in. And I can't wait to get those pictures to Tom Hanks and get those pictures also out to all of you so you can see Tom Hanks at that ceremony that I just described to you as he's meeting all of the Medal of Honor recipients. And somewhere in the wings, with probably dark sunglasses, is Mike Sanborn, who then was part of that detail in making sure that these folks got to where they needed to be. But also, guess what? That they were also protected. Because do you want to know, for those folks that hate America, what kind of price tag is on the head of, if you could say as a terrorist, I killed a Medal of Honor recipient? Can you imagine? That's why the FBI and God knows who else was detailed, probably the Secret Service as well, maybe the CIA. They were detailed to that special event that Mike described to me, where he called out Tom Hanks and said, hey! And again, because Tom Hanks is who he is, he didn't at any point blink an eye at, yeah, I'll jump in and help. I'm just a regular Joe. Kind of like John Smith said to me when we interviewed him. Do you remember that? It blows me away. It just blows me away. We have other brand new champions and brand new heroes for history as well that stepped in when I offered that new incentive. And they said, yeah, I want to get one of Scott's machines. And I've already alluded to this. But we had Craig Edwards from the great state of Pennsylvania, who his fiance is none other than Sunny. Sunny doesn't need an introduction, does she? I don't think so. But going into this Valentine's Day weekend, Sunny probably gave a couple nudges to Craig and said, hey, Scott just announced this new incentive. I just looked at all of those incredible Slantomatics, and I'm a quilter. Craig, would you get me that 404? Did she have to ask twice? No. She asked once. And the very next morning after I announced that initiative, guess who was on the phone with Shelby? Craig was on the phone with Shelby saying, if someone else hasn't gotten that 404, it's mine. I want it for my girl. I want it for Sunny. I want to give it to Sunny. And so he made his donation of $250, and that machine is now reserved specifically for Sunny. It happened again the very next morning after I announced that initiative. Guess who else stepped forward? Paula Noel from Florida. Paula Noel doesn't need an introduction either. She's the one that made those incredible tags to go with the bricks. She's out there and high visibility all the time, showing her love and support of the work that I do. And she said, I want that 401A, Shelby, if it's not taken yet. Shelby said, nope, it's yours. Paula Noel made that $400 donation, and now that 401A is hers. Guess who else stepped out of the shadows that very next morning after I announced that initiative? None other, and she doesn't need an introduction either, none other than Emma B. from Florida. And Emma B. said that she had been hoping and praying and dreaming of being able to find a 503A, but she didn't want just any 503A. She wanted a 503A from this workshop. You might remember that Emma B. is also the same one that sent her 222K. It was the first 222K ever in this workshop, and that's still on the back burner right now. Eventually it's going to be serviced, restored, premiered, and then I'll be getting that back to her down in Florida. But Emma B. is not a talker. She's a walker. And the very next morning after I announced that initiative, she was on the phone with Shelby saying, if that 503A is not gone yet, it's mine. Shelby said, nope, you're the first one that has called. You make that $400 donation, it's yours. History. That machine is now reserved specifically for Emma B. But that's not the end of that story either on those machines, because if you counted them as we're going through this, we had Craig with the 404, we had Paula Noel with the 401, we had Emma B with the 503A. We still have a machine that's not accounted for. Well, that machine was accounted for by, again, another lady that doesn't need any introduction on this channel. She doesn't need any introduction. And I'm talking about none other than Roz from the great state of Michigan. Roz is the same one, if you're brand new to this channel, she's the same one that just sent me Michigan maple syrup. She also sent me these amazing cars right here that are part of my playroom sign. That's a FOF car right there. This is the Singer car right over here. And they're right next to Peter Pan that was sent by Emma B. They have a place of honor in this workshop right there. So that's the same Roz that I'm talking about. This thoughtful, amazing gal from the great state of Michigan. And the very next morning, after I made that special initiative announcement of saying I wouldn't sell any of these Slant-O-Matic machines. They're part of my personal collection, original owner machines. But for a cause like this, I will give them up for someone that's willing to make a donation to the History Museum. So Roz made that call early. Got Shelby on the phone and said, if that 403A is not gone yet, it's mine. And Shelby said, the other three are already gone, but providentially, that 403A is the only machine left that Scott gave us to offer for donation. If you want it, you make your $300 donation, it'll be reserved just for you, Roz. What did Roz do? Because she's not a talker, she's a walker. She made that donation. And she didn't just make the donation to help the History Museum. That was the core motivation. But she also wanted to point out that she was doing it in honor of her father, Ernest E. And Roz, forgive me in advance if I say his last name wrong, Ernest E. Ross, Jr. of Hobart, Indiana. So I don't mess it up and take away from this honor that Roz is giving to her dad. Let's just say that she made that donation to get that 403A in honor of her dad, Ernest. How cool is that? I had encouraged a lot of you to do that, to think about someone that influenced your life, that was a game changer for you, that was a hero in your history. And Roz obviously feels that way about her dad. And that's why it's not just getting a sewing machine, it's not just helping a great cause, it's also an act of honoring her dad, who apparently is originally from Hobart, Indiana. Now let me give you students in this classroom a quick little challenge. Post something in the chat significant about Hobart, Indiana. I don't even know where it's at. Where is it in relation to South Bend, Indiana? What's significant about Hobart, Indiana? Type anything you can in the chat to be a furtherance of honoring Ernest, Roz's dad, that came from that neck of the woods. Would you do that, please? Post anything that you can about Hobart, Indiana. So, Roz, it's my privilege to announce to the world that this donation came from you for this 403A to help out the History Museum, but most importantly, to your history in honoring your dad, Ernest. It doesn't get much cooler than that, does it, folks? I don't think so. So let me step back now and let's look at all of these champions. That again, it doesn't have to be equal giving. It's all about equal sacrifice. Equal sacrifice. And each one of these champions for history, each one of these heroes for history has equally sacrificed during the course of a pandemic, during the course of uncertain economic times, during the course of high joblessness. And yet they said, no, this initiative to help out these folks down in South Bend, Indiana is not going to come and go without my voice being heard, without me being counted as someone that isn't a talker but a walker. And there's still room on these boards. And I would be glad to start a third board. But there's still room right down here for your name, right below Annette Stover. There's still room over here, right here, next to this guy, Tom Hanks. Over there, I'll fit you in. And if I don't have enough room, I'll start a third board. So in these final hours, this final day of this campaign, tomorrow's it. Game over. If you don't call Shelby before 5 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, on Monday, February the 15th, excuse me, if you don't call her by 5 p.m. Eastern Time, February the 15th, that's it. You can talk about getting involved in another campaign, which we probably will do when we hit around 15,000 subscribers, as I alluded to. But, you know, what can I say? Yesterday, at that point, when 5:01 p.m. Eastern Time rolls around on February 15th, that quote that I've quoted to you so many times will burn into your heart if you haven't stepped forward. It will. I guarantee it. Yesterday is history. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be history at that point. Tomorrow, a mystery? Yeah. All of these champions, all of these heroes for history, they can't even know what tomorrow's going to bring. If they're employed right now, tomorrow they might not be. And yet they stepped out in faith as a hero and made that donation anyway. In spite of a pandemic, in spite of uncertain economic times, in spite of all the mystery that tomorrow brings, and made it happen. They did. And that's really the big difference for any of you that ever served in the military. That's really the big difference between a regular soldier and a hero, is they don't think about taking action when that grenade lands in front of them. They jump on it. And this opportunity to jump on, to make a difference, to jump forward, to take a step forward, to become a hero for history is yours today. Today is the present, which is why we call it a gift. Or today is a gift, that's why we call it the present, if you want to flip them around, which is probably the more appropriate way to say it. The saying is, yesterday is history, tomorrow a mystery, but today is a gift, which is why we call it the present. So you still have an opportunity. Tomorrow is the last day of the fundraiser. You can still make your gift to the History Museum so that you can claim that prize of being a hero for history. It's not going to happen again, folks. Once tomorrow at 5:01 p.m. Eastern comes and goes, it's history. Game over. Don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. If you have been sitting in the wings, if you've been sitting in the shadows saying, I'm going to get on that board, I'm going to make it happen, I'm going to put my life on pause, and especially after watching this premiere live on Sunday, February the 14th, you can't make the excuse anymore that you're too busy. If all of these folks can put their lives on pause, and a person like this can put their life on pause to make a difference, you can't tell me you're too busy. Step forward in faith and make it happen. Okay? Make it happen. But I got to do something else real quick after I get back on this tripod and officially mark those machines that I offered as a special incentive. Mark those as no longer available. No longer available. And I also made up tags for those in advance, like I did for Tom, in faith and hoping that all of those machines would go. All of those machines would go. As much as I love my Slantomatics, and I said that during the premiere when I announced this initiative, for a cause like this, it's not too much to give. It's not too much to give, and that's why I'm so excited. I'm going to move our heroes out of the way for a second. I'm going to move our heroes out of the way for a second and officially tag these machines, as I'm knocking things over, officially tag these machines as no longer available. Let me come in on this shot a little bit. All right, and let me also put this up here so I don't forget to mention that. So, as I already said, Craig Edwards, because he loves his Sonny, and that's his fiance. Plus, we're going into this Valentine's Day weekend as well. I'm sure all those things played into his mind. And when she saw that machine on the far right, right here, this 404, a quilter's dream machine, and she turned to her fiance and said, Craig, I know we're in uncertain times. I know it's a pandemic. I know we can't count on what's going to happen tomorrow, but if we could somehow swing it, I would love to get that 404. He didn't think about it for a second. The very next morning, as soon as Shelby was sitting at her desk, probably taking her first sip of coffee, that phone was already ringing. That was already ringing, and it was Craig on the other end saying, gone. That's my $250 donation, and that 404 is no longer available. That 404 is now reserved for my Sonny. Yep, gone. Shelby is just starting to pick up her cup of coffee. She's just starting to pick that cup of coffee up after she gets off the phone visiting with Craig, who scooped up that 404 like a hiccup. And the phone is ringing again already. But this time, it's my dear friend Roz calling from this great state of Michigan. And she says, if that 403A is still available, I want it. And by the way, would you please mention to Scott that I'm getting it in honor of my dad, Ernest, who comes originally from the great state of Indiana, specifically from Hobart, Indiana. Would you tell Scott that? Shelby says, you bet I will. Roz makes her donation of $300, and guess what? That machine is gone. And it's more than just a donation. It's an act of honoring the memory of her dad. So that 403A is a very special machine, I think, for that reason, because it's also to remember Ernest from the great state of Indiana, Roz's dad. So Shelby is getting blown away. I think even in a brief little window of time where she was trying to catch her breath and trying to grab a quick little sip of coffee, already her phone is burning up. Craig's on the phone with her. I want that 404. Done. Roz is on the phone with her. I want that 403A in honor of my dad. Done. She's just starting to catch her breath. Her phone is ringing again. But this time, the call isn't coming from the great state of Pennsylvania, where Craig is at with his girl. It's not coming from the great state of Michigan, where Roz is at. It's coming from none other than the great state of Florida, where Paula Noel, again, a household name by now, made those incredible tags for the bricks. She's high visibility all the time, and she says, hey, Shelby, this is Paula Noel. We talked before because I made another donation. I would like to get that 401A, the one that Scott talked about that has the bigger motor, the one that has all those built-in stitches and all the bells and whistles. If that 401A is not gone yet, I'd like to get it. Shelby, catching her breath, taking a quick little sip of coffee, says, it's not gone yet. I'll take your donation and we can officially put a tag on it saying, no longer available. $400 donation received from Paula Noel from the great state of Florida, and that 401A gone like a hiccup. And so for the second time, Paula Noel is again a hero for history. Makes a donation, on top of that steps forward and gets a machine as well that I'm offering as a special incentive. So poor Shelby, she needs like a monster drink by now. She's only gotten into the office. The phone is like exploding. Craig's talking to her, wants that 404. Then we've got Roz on the phone with her saying, I want that 403A. Then her phone is ringing again. It's Paula Noel saying, sign me up for that 401A. Take it off the table, it's gone. But guess what? It didn't end there. Shelby is just hanging up the phone, talking with Paula Noel, and the phone rings again, and it's none other than Emma B. saying, I have dreamed of a 503A forever, especially if it could come from Scott's workshop. If that 503A is not gone yet, Shelby, sign me up. And at that point, Shelby catches her breath and she says, the other ones are gone, but that one is still here. Do you want it? Well, Emma B is former New Yorker. She's like, yo, yeah. So she gives her donation, and that machine is no longer available. The very next morning after I announced that initiative, all 4 Slantomatics that I presented as a special way to try to help out the History Museum, gone. Plus all of these incredibly generous donors that not only are going to get a fabulous fully restored machine with a limited lifetime warranty from the workshop, but they also made a difference again for the History Museum. Many of these folks, as I alluded to, made more than one donation. They made a direct donation, and then they made an additional donation to get one of these fully restored machines. Those are heroes in my book, truly. So they get all the entries that would be appropriate for the donation amount. So Craig, over with the $250 donation, gets 4 entries. Roz is going to get an additional 5 entries for this. Plus she made a separate donation on top of that before getting this machine in honor of her dad. Then we've got Paula Noel over here, who also made more than one donation, but with this donation here for this machine, she gets 7 entries. So 4 entries, 5 entries, 7 entries. And the same thing for Emma B. She gets 7 entries for making a $400 donation to get her dream machine, the 503A. Plus, these folks have access to getting an additional brick as well. So if they have a sewing friend, if they have someone in a quilting group that they deal with, someone in their sewing group, just someone that loves vintage, Sonny and Craig are going to get 2 bricks. Roz is going to get 2 bricks. Paula Noel will get 2 bricks. Emma B will get 2 bricks because they made a direct donation and then they made an additional donation to get one of these special Slantomatics that I offered up. That, again, if you didn't see that other premiere, I get contacted all the time about Slantomatic machines like the 404 that Craig got for Sonny. This one right here. this 403A that Roz got and made the donation in honor of her dad. Like this 401A that Paula Noel scooped up as well. And then finally Emma B, like this 503A that she scooped up as her dream machine. I get calls all the time from people. Do you have a 404? Well, I have one in my personal collection, but it's not for sale. What about a 403A? Yep, I got one, not for sale. What about a 401A? Yep, not for sale. What about a 503A? You know, that cruise liner, that Rocketeer. I've been looking for one of those and I want one from your workshop. I got one, not for sale. But like I said in that other premiere, when I meet someone like the folks down at the History Museum, Brian, Christy Dunn, Kat, Shelby, Skylar, and all the other incredible folks that I met down there, and they have a cause like this, what isn't for sale is up for donation. And all four of these champion upon champions, heroes, stepped forward and said, I want it. It's gone. So they're gone now. If you were watching that premiere and you thought, I'm not going to call right away, I'll call soon, well, whatever, probably won't go right away. Right? We did. I did that premiere announcing this initiative. The very next morning, Shelby's phone is on fire, as Craig is calling her, as Roz is calling, as Paula Noel is calling, as Emma B is calling, saying, mine, done, off the table, reserved for me. Here's my donation. So there you go. What do they say? You snooze, you lose. So if you were hoping for one of those machines, sorry. Now let me show you something really cool real quick before I totally forget about it. I literally just got this in the mail. And it is from my dear friend, Doc Roger, out in New Mexico. And Doc Roger and his wife also, as you saw on the board, I'll put those boards back up again because I want to see those heroes again. Doc Roger and his wife are also heroes. And they made a donation straight away. Didn't have to ask them twice. Didn't have to, somehow persuade them that they could put their life on pause. I reached out and Doc said, I'll take care of it right away. That's incredible. I mean, that's a walker. That's a walker, not a talker. But then all of a sudden I get this in the mail and I can see right away it's from Doc Roger. And I'm thinking, what did he do? What did he send me? What's in here? And he writes a really cool note. He says, hey Scott, found this online and knowing how enthusiastic you are about this, wanted you to have this and add it to all the interesting objects at your workbench. Enjoy, Doc Roger. So I don't know if you can see that note, but a beautiful note that he wrote. And then when I saw what he sent me, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because you might remember when I was there at the History Museum, and if you haven't watched the video that's part of that playlist on this channel, where Kat and Christy Dunn and also the other wonderful lady, and I'm just blanking on what her name is, and forgive me for that, but the other wonderful lady that was behind the desk and came out and walked me through a lot of the items, including the postcards and all of the materials that they had pulled as well for me to look at. There were some original postcards that showed the Singer plant, but they were just postcards, kind of like they had never been used as a postcard, if that makes sense. They were blank postcards. They were things that would have been handed out to people maybe as a gift or something like that, but they hadn't actually been used as a postcard. They hadn't been mailed, if that's the point I'm trying to get across. Well, Doc Rogers, knowing how enthusiastic and passionate I am about helping the History Museum and how enthusiastic I've been about this campaign and this fundraiser, somewhere online, I have no idea where, he comes across a postcard like this that in and of itself it's a historical artifact. It's a treasure. It's a treasure! Because this depicts that incredible campus that Singer had in South Bend, Indiana, again, covering somewhere between 50 to 60 acres. And only one of the buildings is still standing, the one that I had the privilege to walk through with Anthony. But it gives you an idea of the scope of that operation when you look at a postcard like this. Similar to the postcards I looked at when I was with my friends down at the History Museum during my visit. What makes this one so unique and different? What makes it so unique and different? This is a postcard that was actually sent from one person to another. I believe if I read the name correctly on the bottom, it's a little bit hard to read, but it was written out by a lady by the name of Edna. And I can only imagine that Edna, back in the day, had arrived from Boston, Massachusetts, was sending this, basically sending this as an update, because she writes something like, arrived here, all okay, and then she goes on to share a couple of other remarks. I can kind of hold it up there, and maybe, again, when I'm looking through my little screen, when this premieres being shot as opposed to when it goes live, we can see a lot more after than I can see right now. So I'm just going to hold it up there for you to see what you can see with this incredible historical artifact that Doc Roger saw, and he said, I want that for Scott. Kind of like those cool cars that Roz got for me, or that cool Peter Pan, or a lot of the other wonderful gifts like that, the ones that Annette sent me as well. A lot of you sent me some very thoughtful things. But the coolest thing about this is it was actually used. It was actually sent as a postcard. It actually has a stamp from the early 1900s that would have been canceled out by the U.S. Postal Service when this was sent from wherever it was sent to George somebody. Maybe you can see that on the bigger screen. George somebody on Lafayette Street in South Bend, Indiana. I wonder if Lafayette Street is still a thing. It actually looks like South Lafayette Street. But you know what's super cool about this? And I actually had to use a magnifying glass to see it, is when you look at the canceled stamp that the U.S. Postal Service would have done when they stamped this officially, because this was actually mailed. That stamp on there says, let me bring it real close to the camera, 1912. This was sent in 1912. So fairly long after the Singer cabinet plant opened down there in the 1860s, but still early 1900s, 1912, this was an update where someone probably from the Boston, Massachusetts area was basically being, maybe that's where the person came from. I have no idea. But the point is that someone in Boston, Massachusetts knew someone that went to South Bend, Indiana, presumably to work at this cabinet factory. And this is an actual postcard that was used. And that's why I'm saying this was something that Doc Roger from New Mexico gave to me as a special gift, but it has such historical significance because I don't remember any of the postcards that my friends down at the History Museum showed me down there that are part of that vintage sewing machine related artifact display. I don't remember any of them actually being real postcards that were used, that were sent from one person to another, especially from the early 1900s, 1912. So I'm going to think about it. I'm going to reflect on it. Would I like to keep this for myself? Yeah, I would. But I also would love for Christy and Kat to be able to have some other person that comes to see them down there, and for them to pull this out and say, you may have heard about that fundraiser thing that the Cow Country guy did up in Wisconsin when he came down to see us for the drawing, because I'm going to drop a little bit of a bombshell on all of you guys right now, including Brian and including Christy and Shelby and everybody else. What I would love to happen in this week, as this contest has come to an end on February 15th, Monday, I would love to find a way of getting down to the History Museum I would love to find a way of getting down there and having Brian gather as many of his folks as he can, as many of his team, pull them together. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but I want to do the drawing down there. I want to do the drawing down at the History Museum. I want to do it with Brian there if possible, with Christy Dunn, all the other folks, Shelby, Skylar, anyone that can come to this quick little get together of pulling the name out of the hat. I'd like to do it down there. And if any way possible at all, I'd love to do it in the Oliver Mansion. If that's possible. If we can't do it, we can't do it. But I would love to, if weather permitting and everything else, I'd love to make the trip down there. Once Brian says, Scott, I think that's doable. Here's the best day for us. Then what I'll do is I'll travel down the night before. I'll get a hotel and I'll go over to the History Museum the very next morning where we can gather together and we can celebrate, number one, the incredible generosity of all the donors and the incredible outcome of this campaign that it was just a thought. And then all of a sudden it became reality, and then all of you rallied around it. I would love to go down to South Bend, Indiana, do the drawing down there with all of my History Museum friends present, and then present this card that Doc Roger was so generous in giving to me, and given in his name, in his honor, as a gift to the History Museum that they can add to that collection of artifacts that the next time someone comes in there to look at them, they can pull this out and say, we had all these other cards, but that cow country guy up in Wisconsin, Scott, he donated this. It was given to him as a gift and he donated it to us. So now it's our treasure to share with anyone that comes in to look at vintage sewing machine things. What do you think? Is that okay? So Brian and Shelby, if you could, please try to make this happen on your end. Let me know what day this week works for you. I'll make the trip down. We can do the drawing if possible. If we could do it in the Oliver Mansion, that would be amazing. I promise I'll wear a mask. I promise I'll sanitize my hands. I promise I won't do anything wrong. I'll be a good boy. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. We'll do the drawing there. I'll be happy to pull it out of the hat myself, but I'd love for all of you to be there when it happens, because this entire initiative has been to benefit your great organization. So Brian, let me know, please. Shelby, let me know what day works. I'll come down the night before. We'll do the drawing all together, pull the name out, announce the winner. I'll give this incredible historical artifact, probably hand it right to Christy Dunn and Kat so that they can cradle it and guard it, because it is a treasure. It's truly a treasure. And I think it belongs in a museum. Don't you guys? If you guys think that this, instead of being in the workshop, and it's in the workshop right now, but if you think instead of this staying in the workshop, it belongs in a museum, would you type that in the chat right now? Type it in the chat right now saying, give it as a gift, or give it to the museum, or whatever you want to type in there to affirm that my heart is in the right place with wanting to take an incredibly generous treasure and a gift. And again, if you haven't done the math, from 1912 to 2021, type in the chat how old this artifact is. How old is this? A postcard that was actually mailed. It has an original stamp in it, the original post office cancellation, blah, blah, blah on there. Type in the chat how old this is. Again, from 1912 to 2021. I know it's over 100 years old. I know that. Even as a non-mathematician, I can come up with a vague number like that. But if you believe that this belongs in a museum, just type that in the chat, please. Please, please, please. That way I can say, yep, everybody agrees. All of my extended family that follow my work love me, love my work, love this initiative that we've done for the History Museum. Along with all the other gifts that we've given them, we can give them as a gift. We can give them a gift of this from Doc Roger and myself. Yeah. So thanks again, Doc. I hope you see it as a special way of honoring you, that I want this to be preserved and protected down at the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana, where this incredible plant on this 50 to 60 acre campus was just a booming success down there during all those years, and I want this to belong to them. I hope you understand, Doc, and I hope you're even further honored by what I'm trying to do with this. So, wow. Again, I just can't believe how generous all of you are in so many ways. So many ways. It's just mind-blowing. So, I want to put our champions back up. I want to wrap this premiere up so that all of you can enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and you can resolve on Sunday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, a day that most people, they think of the word love, their love of vintage, their love of an individual, their love of being generous. You can resolve to carry that into Monday on the final day of this incredible campaign to help the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana. You can resolve to be generous. You can resolve to show love to a cause that is worthy of that love. And you can give Shelby a call first thing Monday, just like all of these folks did, to scoop up these Slant-O-Matics. They didn't wait, they didn't wonder, they didn't contemplate. The very next morning after I announced this special initiative, Craig was on the phone with Shelby. Roz was on the phone with Shelby. Paula Noel was on the phone with Shelby. Emma B. was on the phone with Shelby. They didn't wait. They didn't pontificate. They took action because they're walkers. They're not talkers. So join them, please, along with all the other champions. But let me show you the number first so that if you're saying, okay, I'm a believer now, I'm a believer, show me the number so I know where to call, so I know where to reach Shelby. Okay? There it is. All you do is dial 574-235-9664. 574-235-9664. And you'll probably first of all get the amazing receptionist, and let me pull up their name straight away so that I can acknowledge them again. I'm going from memory. I believe it's going to be Georgie and Michael, but let me make sure that I get it right. Let me make sure I get it right. That is, after I go to the right spot on my phone, I'll get it right, maybe. Screenshots. Oh, come on. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, yep, I was right. Okay, so when you call this number, 574-235-9664, you're going to get a receptionist before you get Shelby. And if it's a lady, I want to challenge you for fun by addressing that young lady by name. When you call, the phone is picked up, they say History Museum, blah, 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 and it's a woman's voice. You say, hey, Georgie, thanks for taking my call. I'm calling about the Cow Country fundraiser, and would you be so kind as to put me through to Shelby? So nice talking with you, Georgie. Now, if you get a guy, it's going to be Michael, and I want you to say, hey, Michael, so good to hear your voice finally. Thank you so much for taking my call. I'm calling to donate on this last day to the History Museum's Cow Country campaign, and would really appreciate you putting me through to Shelby. And Michael's going to be kind of shocked, like Georgie, as to how you knew their names. Unless they watch this premiere, then they'll, on Sunday, if they watch this premiere, Brian sends out a notice to everybody, hey, watch the premiere on Sunday, then they're already going to know. They're going to be like, hey, I know you. I know how you know my name. You're not pulling anything over me. Scott announced our names, and that's how you know who I am. But have a little bit of fun anyway and do that. When you get the receptionist, if it's a lady, call her by name, call her Georgie. If you get a guy, call him by name, call him Michael. And you know what? There's no harm in saying, I know you guys have fielded a ton of calls. Georgie, I know you fielded a ton of calls. Michael, I know you fielded a ton of calls. And the great first impression, your professionalism, your kindness, your warmth is such a wonderful way to have that first impression of the History Museum. And then to get Shelby on the other line and just be wowed by how incredible, how kind, and how neat you guys are. Why wouldn't we want to support you? Does that make sense? So make sure you mention Georgie and Michael if you get them on the phone, please. Okay? The other thing I failed to mention is... No, I did mention that. Never mind. Yeah, I mentioned that. I'm just looking at my notes. Okay. So again, Monday morning, today is Sunday. Monday morning, give this number a call. Get either Georgie on the phone or Michael on the phone. Chat with them for a little bit if you'd like, but then have them put you through to Shelby. And step out of the shadows and be counted as a hero for history. It's simple, takes a few minutes, and Shelby will have you on the phone and off the phone unless you want to jaw a little bit, if you want to chat a little bit. She loves sharing stories with me on the great conversations that she's had and the great people that she's met that have generously stepped forward to become heroes for history. So if you like chatting, chat away. If you want to, if you're at work, if whether at home at work or otherwise, you need to get on the phone and off the phone, Shelby will honor that. Just tell her, Shelby, I'd love to chat with you, but I'm at work right now. She'll be like, boom, 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 you're done. Thank you so much for your donation. So whatever you decide to do, whether it's be chatty or not chatty, make that donation, please. And thank you. So let me put up my champions again as of today. And then I will do one more champion update after this campaign ends on Monday, February 15th. Oh, I totally reversed these. That's okay. So now I've got my original donors on the left, and I'm going to put my newest donors on the right, which is totally cool, because I want to look at these heroes for history again. And again, if you were somehow grabbing a Coke or running to the restroom or taking the dog out or whatever you might have been doing, if you somehow missed that phone number, I will obviously show you that phone number one more time. As a matter of fact, I will put it right here because I think it'll be low enough, because I still have room, hint, hint, I still have room, hint, hint, to put more donors up on these two boards. I do. I still have room. This is making me really paranoid it's going to fall off. I hope it doesn't. If it does, I'll pick it up. So, I'm going to come off the tripod. I'm going to put on some of my hero music, and then we will wrap this premiere up, because I think I covered everything. But look at all, I mean, it just blows me away. Look at all of these folks, and none, I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to say it with an air of kindness, but also an air of conviction. Not a single one of these folks that you're looking at right now on these two boards that showcase our heroes for history for this campaign, not a single one of these persons is from Indiana, where this museum is located. If that doesn't say something about the conviction, the fortitude, the constitution of these individuals in coming behind a cause that they believe in, because it's a great organization and because these folks down in the South Bend, Indiana area at the History Museum have put their own skin in the game and spent money out of their own pocket to get these artifacts that relate to vintage sewing machines, I don't know what does. Not a single Indiana person. If I had one wish, if I could wave a magic wand right now, it would be in these final hours of this campaign, with it ending tomorrow on February 15th at 5:01 p.m. Eastern Time, is that when I do that final update after the campaign ends, that I would be able to put a name up on this board that is from Indiana. Now, indirectly, okay, I already know where some of you are thinking. Okay, I already know where some of you are thinking. Didn't Roz over here, when she made that donation to get that 403A, didn't she do it in honor of her dad, Ernest, from Hobart, Indiana? Yes, I'll grant you that. But that's in honor of her dad, who used to be from Indiana. I'm looking for someone that is currently in the great state of Indiana, in the same state where this incredible organization that this entire initiative has been driven by, that they're living in that state right now. Does that make sense? I want somebody from Indiana. I want them bad. I want them now. So if you're watching this and you're from Indiana, put on your shoes and your shirt. I don't care if you're wearing PJs, that's totally cool. Walk over to your phone Monday morning and call Shelby. You might get Georgie first, you might get Michael, all right? Get them on the phone and tell them that you want to donate, because that guy Scott has been beating up Indiana about not making any donation. All right? So let's get you on the phone. Let's get you on the board, okay? You can do this. Like falling off a log. Said that a couple times during this campaign, I think. All right. Our final victory music. All right. Let's start over here first. I'm going to call out all my champions, all my heroes for history. Sonny from Pennsylvania. Way to go, Sonny. Paula Noel from Florida. Emma B. from Florida. Emily and Veronica from Texas. Scott from Wisconsin. Doc Roger from New Mexico. Brian from Louisiana. Ross from Michigan. Pamela Ann from Florida. Louie and Sandra from California. Gigi or Gloria Andrews from Georgia. Annette Stover from the great state of Texas. Our newest champions, Craig Edwards, who donated to get a 404 for Sonny. Paula Noel, who ended up donating again $400 to get that Singer 401A. Emma B donated again to get that 503A. Ross from Michigan donated again to get that 403A and to honor her dad, Ernest from Hobart, Indiana. Carol Jean from the great state of Texas, known also as Butterfly, stepped out of the shadows and made a donation. Mary from Washington State, who I'm going to be sending a brick of cheese to, stepped out of the shadows to be counted as an incredibly generous donor. Again, it's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. Her sacrifice was $1,500. And if any of you didn't do the math, that you can calculate how many entries that will get her into potentially winning what's behind door number 1, which is, you know, it's going to be a Scottish machine, but it could be a 222K, or door number 2, the Rolls Royce of Singer sewing machines. She's going to have a lot of entries, folks. You can do the math and type in the chat, how many entries will Mary get for making a $1,500 donation to the History Museum in South Bend, Indiana? And then following in her footsteps, just today, was Thomas Jeffrey Hanks from California, aka Greece, who matched her donation by also giving $1,500. And I'm going to do that as a surrogate for him, and then from he and Rita, they'll hook me up. So I'm not worried about that at all. So I'll be reaching out to Shelby with that donation on behalf of Tom. And then we also have Juliet Thomas, dear friend of mine. I already talked about her, who also stepped out of the shadows and said, count me in, count me in. And then we have Marion Singer, who was like Kind of like our friend Mary from Washington State was our first person from Colorado. What about all the rest of you that are from Colorado? What about you folks, huh? What about you? And then I've already talked about Roz. I've talked about all of our other champions as well. So y'all know me with music. I'm going to cue that song one more time, and we're going to wrap up this premiere. But again, before I kind of bring the lights down and end with a little bit of fun music, there's the number again. Call it first thing tomorrow morning, Monday, February 15th. That's it. Game over. So you got to call this number before 5 p.m. Eastern Time and get Shelby on the line and make your donation, please. All right, here we go. Yeah, these are my heroes right over here. Those are my heroes. And again, it's not about equal sacrifice, or it's not about equal giving, I should say. I'll get it right. It's not about equal giving, it's about equal sacrifice. Every one of these heroes for history has sacrificed equally, and I couldn't be any more grateful. And I know that I can also speak for Brian and Christy and Kat and Shelby and Skylar and all the other folks down there, that they're equally grateful for your sacrifice. I mean, we're in a pandemic, folks. You know what I'm talking about. All right, remember, give Shelby a call Monday morning, 574-235-9664. And thank you again to everyone that has stepped out of the shadows and made a generous donation to help these folks out. You are heroes for history. Way to go. Way to go.